This is a model of a motor grader made by HBM-NOBAS, which is a German company with its roots going back to 1841. The real machine weighs around 19 tons, and this model is in the colours of Hinnenkamp, a specialist grading contractor in Germany. The model comes in an HBM-NOBAS branded box, but there's no information about the real machine. And inside the box, the model is contained in the fairly typical expanded polystyrene trays. The trays are marked top and bottom, so there's no excuse for opening it upside down. Taking the lid off, the model just sits in the tray and is held in place with a couple of pieces of foam. But it's easy enough to lift out, and the model's complete out of the box. There's no assembly to do. Looking underneath, there's no real detail to speak about, but the tyres are very good with a nice tread pattern. The metal wheels are fine, and they have some bolt details. The cab detail is reasonably good. There are plastic mirrors and grab rails and some painted lights. Behind the cab, the engine compartment has got some smart graphics and some textured surfaces. There are more painted lights at the rear, and there's a decent looking ripper tool. As far as the grading equipment is concerned, the mouldboard or blade is metal, as is the circle, and there's a tiny warning sign in German. The hydraulics are good with some fine gauge hoses, but the cylinder jackets really need some caps on top. There are some more fin hoses at the front, and the wheel arches are metal. The front dozer blade is metal too, and there's a light bar with some painted lights. The bright yellow colour scheme is just like a flower, but don't let it bug you if you don't like it. Starting out on the test track, and the model responds well to a push. And picking it up, the model replicates the tandem drive of the real grader with the floating oscillating axles. The wheels turn separately, and one of the degrees of steering is through the pivot point. This is controlled by a couple of small cylinders and achieves a reasonable angle. And when it's set, you can drive the machine in a curve. There's plenty of functionality on the front axle, which oscillates significantly to get over rough terrain. And there's also a good range of steering movement on the front axle. You can combine the two steering functions to get an offset grading position, with the grader still able to go in a straight line. The other function at the front is the dozing blade, and that just raises and lowers. And that's handy for dozing any giant bugs attracted by the yellow colour. At the rear end, there's a ripper tool that would normally be used for scarifying the surface. It works well on the model and could certainly put scratches in your finest wooden furniture. The grading equipment is the skilled end of things as far as the operator is concerned. And the functionality on the model is very good. The blade rotates and it also moves side to side. And it's also got the ability to tilt forwards and backwards. The circle above the blade is controlled by hydraulics from the frame, and these work on the model. It's a bit stiff and it takes some effort, but you can raise and lower the circle and the blade. And it's also possible to put some tilt on the angle of the blade. So NZG have done a good job to replicate the grader functions. This model from NZG has been around since 2007 and has been made in a variety of different colour schemes. It's quite well made with reasonable details and a good range of functions. This version looks smart with Hinnenkamp graphics, and it's highly recommended.